Docking request accepted.
Good morning, New Eden! Today is October 4th, 2025, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have a very special interview that we're going to be doing with Frippy. Welcome back, man. How's it going?
It's going fucking brilliant, my man. It's great to be back.
Great
to be back. Yeah.
So you are running for CSM once again. This is your second run now, right?
Yeah, I mean, as we were just saying, this time last year, this fine gentleman here is the reason I started streaming. I shit you not. It was literally after my CSM 19 interview I did with Frozen Fallout here. He literally says to me, hey, if you want to really get yourself out there, start Twitch streaming. And voila, here we are a year later.
Yeah, no, and you have gotten yourself out there. I mean, you stream way more than I stream, for sure. And I would say that you're definitely more popular than me at this point. So I'm glad to see you quickly usurp your master.
Now the apprentice has become the master.
But no, yeah, it's good to have you back on. Good to hear that you're running for CSM. So this is CSM 20. So one of the things that I've been kind of doing, as well as I want to make sure I get from your point of view, what is the CSM? What do you think the CSM, what do you think they're capable of? And if you could give me a little breakdown of what are you running for from your point of view?
So one big thing I have learned this in the past year compared to last year of running is, what is a CSM? Now, that's a great question because not actually a lot of people know it. Essentially, in layman's terms, the CSM is a group of 12 players who get elected once a year in the late October time. Basically, for 1 year, be a focus group for the developers CCP. They get access to under development content, as well as they get to sort of spread ideas that they feel like they want to implement, as well as get ideas shot back at them, and they're basically the feedback group for CCP. And how have I learned this is because of certain networking I've done. I've got in contact with quite a few current and past CSM members and sort of got some information and whatnot. Did a podcast last week called Untethered on the New Eden Post. That had Drake Idon, who's a current CSM member from CSM 19, lives in Pochven, the Pochven guy, as he's known as. And then there was a guy from Nullsec doing faction warfare, but I think he was Mimital Militia. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was Mimital Militia. He's called the Juice Goose, something like that. But great guys. And one of the great chats we had on the Untethered podcast was, what's CSM about? And that's the real meat of it, because a lot of the Untethered podcast hosts are ex-CSM or current CSM. So it was a very knowledgeable place to be, and as somebody who would describe themselves as the new kid on the block, it was great to be around all this fountain of knowledge and this wealth of knowledge, you know. But what am I running for? Fucking great question. Some people don't know what I'm running for. Just a little backstory for those who don't.
If you're watching this, you should have already known everything about Frippy. This is. Do your research, people.
Yeah, come on, guys. Where's your notes? But yeah, essentially, who am I? What am I doing? So my name's Frippy. I'm the CEO of a corp called Rebellion. We are in the Nullsec Alliance Get Off My Lawn within the Imperium. I started this corp in February of 2025 with some of our mutual friends, actually.
Yes.
And I dragged them down to Nullsec with me, and there we have lived, and it's been great fun. I'm now a diplomat for the Alliance Get Off My Lawn, also a fleet commander. So always primary Frippy if you see me in local. I've been playing since March of 2024, a fucking short time, I know. Almost 2 years. And one thing I'd like to say is in the 18 months I've played this game, I mean, I've played this game nearly every day, right? I've basically gone from playing the game for 76 days, jumping straight into Nullsec Karma Fleet, so Goon Swarm, 76 days in, and from there, basically spread my wings and sped ran the game for the first 7-8 months, and then about 10 months in, something happened, which we're not going to talk about, but it's the reason why I'm in Get Off My Lawn, not in Goon Swarm anymore. If you know, you know. We've talked about it on here before, so
Oh yeah.
some people out there will know it. And yeah, so basically last year my whole campaign was the new player experience, which was great for about 5% of the community, and then I realized, hold up a minute, if I actually want votes, I'm going to have to engage the whole community. So I'd say my my campaign this year is a little bit more well-rounded to sort of suit everybody's palates and not upset too many people, because that's the fine art of politics, is getting the most amount of votes for upsetting the least amount of people. It's very hard to do, and I'm shit at politics, but I like to pretend I'm good, so that's why the leprechaun hat for good luck. So so what can you expect from me if I do get elected as a CSM member? And essentially there are 7 points, 7 things I'd say could be changed or reworked, and I'll go into detail later on, but they surround mission running and Highsec, ratting overall, improvements on that, excluding crab beacons, to do with ISK and LP earn, revamping certain areas of industry by reducing PI components for certain T1 subcapitals, certain T2 subcapitals, reducing the amount of exploration required in the neural link protection cell and enhanced neural link protection cell, some other indie stuff, one quality of life change like compress all ore rather than you having to manually compress individuals, introduce just a compress all. Like you have a stack all button, why isn't there not a compress all button, right? So just less buttons to press, just quality of life stuff like that.
If you had to pick out... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, bring back OG skyhooks. Bring back skyhooks how they were when they first came out. Like, genuinely.
Yes, I am 100% with that.
They were so much fun. They were so much fun. Like, honestly, it made Nullsec PvP go from ESS bullshit to, skyhook robbing, where people would actually bring, loadouts and shit, actual setups, actual doctrines. It was brilliant as a defender and as an attacker. And then they nerfed the shit out of skyhooks, and nobody does skyhooks anymore except random people in deluges. So
yeah, and I've heard that it's really hard to do because it's, as soon as it becomes available to steal, the owner of it has been watching it, and unless and even then, so you can maybe jump in and kill the person that's running it, maybe, but you have to be there the second it becomes on. You can't go randomly do it. You have to kind of know your target and go after a specific target these days, is what I've kind of heard. But I haven't been able to get out and do any skyhooking because it just doesn't seem like there's a feasible way for an individual to do it. Without a lot of time and effort kind of put on it. I did love being able to jump out and just go robbing and see what happens. And it was, heart thrilling. I took a buddy with me a lot of the time that I would take out, and he would do mission running. Exploration out in 0.0 while I was doing robbing. And we would kind of so we can kind of watch each other's back and help each other out if we needed some there's some solo action kind of going on, or extremely small gang, and just keep an eye out for what's happening. And then if somebody died, you just let the other person know, oh well, I summoned the beast. But now that was also before the new changes to filaments. So filaments don't seem to be as good of a way to just get away from an enemy group anymore, right?
Okay, So yes and no. So yes, in the sense that you have a higher probability if you're active with probes, combat probes, or you're good at descanning, you can 100% find the person who's just filamented out, and if you want to risk it, follow them through the filament, right? However, you got a 60-second window to scan down the entire system and find the person. Now, it's very high risk because you're following somebody through a filament. There is no guaranteed way you're making it back unless you're going to filament back, right? The 1 minute delay does make it better as defenders for them. They're activating it, so it gives you technically 2 minutes until the filament trace disappears. But I'd still say that filaments, to the layman, most people don't know how to actively hunt filament roamers because they don't understand the new mechanics of filaments. The amount of people I've explained filament mechanics to who have been playing the game 3, 4, 5, 6 times longer than me, but they didn't know there was a change to it. But if we could quickly touch back on Skyhooks, one thing I do think CCP has done well in the meantime with Skyhook mechanics is I don't know if you dive much into the in-game map and all of the different settings, but one of them under sovereignty shows Skyhooks around the map, and they've got 3 different settings: red, orange, and green. And it goes green is about to be the longest you have to wait, and it shows you a timer until the Skyhook goes live, and the system. It shows you the system and a timer until it goes live. And I think it's from 3 hours out until 0. So it's like the first hour is like green, the second hour is orange, and then the last hour is like red. So you know, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, the highlighted thing to basically like emphasize where it is specifically. So it's a great mechanic, I think, to help people out without having to actually rechange the mechanics from what they were pre-nerf. However, I still think for the sake of content and for the sake of fun that they should fuck the nerf over in some way and go back to some sort of state between how it is now and how it was, because the timers are too long. The wait time between Skyhooks is way too long. Yeah, I agree, they shouldn't be able to be robbed every fucking 4 hours or whatever it was. But somewhere in between, because what we've got now is madness, what we had before was madness, but now it's like famine versus feast. We want to get to that middle part where it's nice and like you're well filled, but you're not too overfull and you're not too famined, you know? So...
I mean, I guess one of the problems with doing that is almost when they do say that when you come to a negotiate or when you come to a compromise, that both parties are not happy with the outcome.
Well, it depends on the compromise. It depends on the compromise, I guess.
True. Because
you might compromise one change for another, and then they go, you can have this, but you can't have that.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
So if you had to choose one of your platform ideas or what you're going to be pushing in New Eden, what would you say is your number one goal, the one thing that you would want to achieve if you became if you got onto the CSM?
I think it really would be keeping, and I know people are going to hate me for this, but keeping certain areas of Nullsec PvP fresh. And what do I mean by fresh? I mean, bring back old school Skyhooks. Buff mobile observatories. Right now, they have a 40% chance to cloak ships. And once you decloak a ship that's cloaked, you have 15 seconds to scan him down before he recloaks again. That's just cloaking mechanics. Maybe add in a buff to this to the mobile observatories to help get rid of cloaky eyes, such as upping it from 40 to 60% chance, so it's just over 50%. And maybe give a sort of penalty to the decloaked person, which is they can't cloak again for like a couple of minutes, or unless they change the session, so if they leave system, dock up, whatever, or log off. But I think with the current mechanics, obviously the idea of having cloaky eyes everywhere, not enough like content for roaming gangs outside of just the box standard ESS. I mean, you know, if there was skyhooks as well, alongside all the ganking opportunities, it'd be brilliant. I just feel like we're very close to having it really good. Like, I actually like the filament changes because it does allow higher skilled players to take advantage of filamenting groups. I do think that was a brilliant change. I do think some of the map changes have been brilliant. I do think that there are some areas that need to be tweaked. But overall, keeping ship balancing up to date, like the Legion changes, whether or not you loved them or hated them, it was nice to actually get a fresh round of nerfs and buffs. I mean, seeing Tech 3 destroyers and ESSs and banning Marauders from ESSs, I am a fan of that. As somebody who lives in Nullsec and likes defending ESSs and who like to Marauder blop people, like, getting rid of Marauders actually levels the playing field, because some of the best content I've seen inside ESSs has been T3Cs with curses. Like, you can mix up a couple low keys legions, maybe a cenotaph, and then a bunch of curses. You can dominate any ESS grid, regardless if they bring Marauders in. But adding the T3D in does make the solo player experience a lot better. And a big thing that people are using are the Confessor and the Hecate, because the Hecate is on top, because we love Galente. But, you know, I do think that my main focus or priority is the PvP elements of Nullsec, but I'd say joint place, or maybe second place, would be industry. As somebody who runs an industry corp, I love you guys, but you guys bitch too much about industry. So I spent the last year collecting info about industry, and I tell you now, honestly, there's some things I'd learned about industry, because I'm not an industry person whatsoever. I just happen to have a corp full of people who do industry, so I provided them with the ability to do every kind of industry, and I go ham, guys, enjoy. And then they go, well, I don't have this, and this. I'm like, well, how'd you get that? And look at the blueprint. It's like, oh, you need this kind of expert, you need that kind of PI, you need that kind of ore. And they're like, well, yeah, a couple of years ago, you didn't need all of this and this, you just needed a bunch of trip. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, realistically speaking, what industry changes do you think would be feasible to the point where it's realistic and doesn't break the game? Because obviously, if they make it too cheap, cap prices drop and fucking deflation and all that stuff, and people get mad about that. But also, it kind of takes back scarcity a little bit, and so the ideas we developed were essentially removing certain PI components by 10% for T1 subcaps, because they never used to be there, reducing 5% of the explo loot required in Neuralink protection cells and enhanced Neuralink protection cells, which is a module used in building any capital or super capital. And I know those are the pinnacle ships, those are the ships that should take the longest to build, but having a ridiculously difficult module to build and then it being extremely expensive, so you're throwing a couple billion out on the regular one, and I think the last time I saw one sell was about 8-10 billion on the enhanced Neuralink. For the super, you're throwing about at least 10 to 30% of your profits out the window if you buy it rather than build it. So this should make it a little bit easier. And then one thing that I had a discussion with was wormhole gas. So obviously, I think currently if I'm wrong, in low sec, there's certain gases you can scan down and go to in low sec, right?
Right, yep.
There isn't in nullsec, in SOV-Nullsec. I don't know if there has to be a SOV upgrade put in, but right now there isn't. You have to go into wormholes or go to low sec. So one thing I think would be great for getting gas outside of wormholes would be the introduction of a rare spawnable, like scannable wormhole gas site, but in nullsec. So you can use your probes to scan it down and then take your mining fleet there. Yeah, it could be smaller, could have less amount, less quality, whatever, but it gives a way for groups who not necessarily maybe don't go into wormhole space, nullsec groups who maybe don't have sovereignty, who don't have the ability to, you know, do mass scale wormhole operations, to get wormhole gas. I mean, and yeah, that's pandering to the little, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of discrepancies between the biggest groups up there and the smallest groups down there. And one thing I will stick to my roots with is those supporting of the small groups. You know, keeping with these small blocks. Even though I'm part of a big block, that doesn't change my perspective. As Nullsec residents in part of that, what they call the big blue donut, we've all got to play the game for us to have a game to play in Nullsec. Because if Horde leave tomorrow, who the fuck are the Imperium going to fight, and vice versa? If Frat leave, Initiative is just going to take over the entire north of the map. So these big blocks require to have each other in order for content. But you have to keep the content fresh. You have to keep it as balanced as you can with nerfs, buffs, shit balancing, module balancing. And one thing I do want to say that's pretty wacky, but I think does line up with balancing, is to help counter recent Marauder nerfs, introduce a Tech 2 Bastion module that adds bonuses to specifically Newt Scrams, Webs, and ECMs. So obviously Newtsaw, Amar, Webs for Minmatar, Scrams for Galente, and then ECMs for Caldari, or have it across the board.
I would say I would say you should switch out Scrams for Galente for dampeners, especially if you're going to because I do run a little bit of messing around with level 4 missions, and it is ridiculous. Sometimes, when you get damped and you're Marauder, you're just like, I can hit out ungodly, and now I can only hit out to 13 kilometers. This is crazy.
Oh, I've got a range of 19 kilometers. There's so many clips of me raging on my fucking Twitch to me doing level 4s in Highsec, and then doing a Serpentis mission and getting damped the shit out of. And I'm just like, I can't look anyone.
You can't do anything. And then if you get in close, because the one thing you can do is super long range, where you get out to 150 kilometers, and then their damps don't work.
Yeah.
But in any case, that's a different topic. But yeah, I would say that it sounds like you got some interesting platforms that you're trying to put out there. If you had anything that you wanted to what are your feelings towards low sec faction warfare and high sec? Is there anything in there that you would like to put out? What kind of knowledge or understanding that you have of these areas that you'd be advocating for?
So I definitely have heard some points about faction warfare, and I can't really speak to them as somebody who has done a lot of faction warfare. I've done a little bit with you, but in terms of high sec and low sec, and a little bit of null sec depending on where you are, is mission agents. And I did have one idea about how mission agents could be slightly improved. And I only say slightly improved because obviously level 4 mission running you can do a lot of, and you do get a fair amount of LP and ISK, but you have to do a lot of fucking missions to get a lot of LP and ISK. And as somebody who's done fucking hours upon hours of level 4s in Highsec, I can say that one way I'd say improving it would be is that your rewards scale with your standing with the agent or the corporation in which that agent belongs to. So let's say you're mission running in low sec and you have a 9.0 standing, right? What's the example I used? For example, a player with a standing of 4.0 would get 5% more ISK and LP per mission completion than a player than 3.0. So every level of standing you go up, you get a 5% increase. That's not too much. I mean, yes, a level 10 standing person is going to get 50% more than a 1 standing person. That makes sense. They've grinded the shit out of their standings to get to 10.
You're talking only about the bonus and the mission reward, right? So even with burner missions, you wouldn't be doubling, or giving a 50% bonus to the overall reward of all the bounties and everything.
It scales with your personal standings with that corporation. So obviously I got asked, for example, if the mission runner was a level 10 or standing, let's say 10.0 standings, and everybody else was 1.0 standings, wouldn't that be ridiculous because they'd all get the level 10 standings? I went, no, because it's per toon. You do it per toon. So obviously when you split the rewards, you can split it with your fleet, right?
Right, it just tells you that you get 1.5 million.
Calculates it. Yeah, the game just calculates it based on your standings because it already has a set price. You then just scale it up from the set price based on standings.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't want to do negative standings because then that makes you less money. So you have it basically as a positive spectrum going up like an exponential graph, with basically people from each level up get 5% bonus, up to 50% with level 10s getting 50% more than somebody who's level 1. And that's not too much of a fucking substantial increase. I think that obviously I've heard arguments about LP store dilution costs, like the cost of things on LP stores getting diluted. So people for faction modules and stuff, it'll dilute the LP store because more people will have LP, and some things will be cheaper. So that will have to be adjusted. People are making more risk, so that's going to fuck up inflation and stuff. And I'm like, you have to remember though, this is limited to the scaling reward thing. It's limited just to 8 mission agents, and the amount of people who do mission agents compared to regular ratting, there's a big difference. A lot of people do regular ratting.
Regular ratting or regular mission running, but there is burner mission running, which is quite profitable. Will get you around 100 million ISK an hour once you've got the setup. But it does take billions of ISK to get the setup. You know, and that's the setup cost, and then also balancing standings. Although I've seen that not to be really an issue. I get offered like a burner mission every other mission.
By the anomic agent shit.
Yeah, because and especially if you are willing to, which are a lot of the setups, and depending on where you go, you can just pop into Nullsec really quick, go do the mission with 180% increase to the bounty payout, and that's where all the money is. Like the money in the burner mission is not inside of the payout.
It's the bounty modifier.
It's just the bounty, because the bounty on them is it's like 20 million, 30 million, or something like that. And then when you get like bonuses to that, a 50% bonus, 80% bonus to a 30-40 million ISK payout for a fight that takes you only a minute or so, is very impressive. Like, I mean, almost all the time for a burner mission is ate up in movement and switching to a ship, That
kind of links in with sort of Highsec incursion running. If you do Highsec incursions, obviously you need the right fit, you need a group of people, and a lot of people run 10 billion-esque ships and then a couple billion-esque pod, and you're putting 12, 13, 14, 15 billion-esque on the field for an incursion, which, if you compare to the Nullsec counterpart, isn't nearly as profitable. Yeah, it's very profitable if you run it non-stop for 4 or 5 hours a day, but compared to other avenues of an income, for example, crabbing. I know crabbing has a lot more risk, you bring a dread on field, but I made half a bill off 2 crab beacons today, right? And that was literally just off picks and the end crab beacon loot. That doesn't include the salvage from the Rex, that doesn't include ESS payouts. That's literally just the initial ticks and the loot from the end of the beacon. And I made about 500 million ISK just off 2 beacons. And that took me 45-50 minutes because me and my friend were doing it. So yeah, I would have probably made about 1 billion ISK because there's 2 of us on it. We split everything down the middle. So bounty payouts, the loot, we split it down the middle. And yeah, it's fun. Crabbing's fun. But that's a Nullsec thing. I want to think about the rest of the game as well. Not just narrow-mind it on Nullsec, because at the end of the day, a lot of candidates from null blocks do tend to narrow-mindedly focus Nullsec with a couple of things to increase the rest of the game. But compared to my campaign last year, which was very much Highsec focused, now it's probably about 75% Nullsec, 25% Highsec/Lowsec / the rest of the game. But a lot of the Nullsec stuff impacts the rest of the game in a positive way. And so I mean, for example, like carrier changes, I think carriers right now, I'm specifically talking about the carriers with fighters, not force auxiliaries. Carriers with fighters right now obviously you've got dreads for DPS, faxes for logi. Where does the regular carrier sit? I think it should sit in a position like a command destroyer or command battlecruiser, where its command bursts are cracked out. It's got DPS from its fighters. One idea that was brought up on my side of things was the idea of having fighters be able to chase people if they warp off. I was told that used to be a mechanic, and I thought that sounds quite fun, so I threw that in there. But having carriers have a specific role within the game, which they don't currently have, because some people try to rap with them, some people try to PvP. The only effective time you see them is sitting 1,000 off a keep star, bashing a keep star, right? Outside of that, fuck all people use carriers. People use supers for crabbing, but that's a different fucking thing. I'm talking about regular use. So you have them as this bridging, conduiting platform on which you can give boost to your fleet, a fleet support position. Not so much logi, not so much DPS, that middle command role where you give boosts out to DPS like a command destroyer, like a T2 battle cruiser. It does DPS, does boosts, but it's better at the boosts than it is the DPS, and do a bit of balancing with the fighters just to bring it up to par. And I think that would help people fly carriers, because they will be more happy putting the 4 or 5 billion ESC field without actually having a use, rather than it just being a shitty, bigger Ishtar that's like 10 times the price. So, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like. So tell me a little bit about your experience at. So you were kind of new to the game. You came in, you jumped kind of headfirst into 0.0, into running for CSM after only being running for a short, or having played the game for a short time.
6 months.
And then you had some hiccups, some events that kind of happened with goons. And with the Imperium, but you ended up making your own corporation, and you are currently like you said, FCing. You run a podcast. You're running for CSM. How is your relation these days with the Imperium? As you're a diplomat for Get Off My Lawn, are you going to be working with the Imperium during your CSM campaign?
I mean, obviously, being an FC. A diplomat, I work with the Imperium, but coordinating across the Imperium on a day-by-day basis. I mean, there is more coordination on the FC side of things. So I've been an FC since April for Get Off My Lawn. I've only been a Diplo for a month and a half. So the Diplo side of things, I'm still learning. I'm still getting up to scratch, whereas FCing, there's coordination. I've been working alongside, for example, when we were in Queros, I was working alongside IGC, Brave, Goons, Dracarys, and getting along and coordinating with Imperium members in a coalition that's big is very important. And I would say that certain people still have a thing regarding the hiccups in the past. But I'd say about 99% of people who know about what happened, who were, I don't want to say affected, but I'd say were involved in the sense they were around when it happened and all of that stuff, have either forgotten or don't give a shit anymore. So I wouldn't say it's impacted my progression as a player or my relations with the wider coalition at all. Certain people still have grudges, but people going to be people, right? I'd say my relationship with Goons overall is very positive. I mean, if you read one of the opening lines of my CSM 20 post, I quote, talk about being in Karma Fleet, and I said, quote, they are wonderful, knowledgeable people, because they are wonderful and they're very knowledgeable. They've been playing the game for God knows how many years, and they were 99.9% of them were fucking lovely people. Amazing people. I loved it. It was great. It's what shaped my first fucking year of playing the game, pretty much. And I wouldn't be where I am today without Goons, without Karma Fleet.
So are you going to be
But-
working with them on the CSM campaign at all? Or are you working to try and be on a ballot with Imperium and the other null blocks?
So there's certain things I'm been told I'm not allowed to speak about.
Oh, okay, so so no comment on that.
Yes and no. Yes being word has been put out. No, some people have rejected.
Okay, yeah. So is there anything else that you'd want to talk about? Any specific points that we haven't hit on yet that you wanted to talk about with your CSM campaign, or any shout-outs that you want to give before we wrap things on up here?
I just want to say that as somebody who's been playing the game for coming on 2 years now, is don't mistake the lack of time for inexperience. Yes, there are certain aspects of the game I know fuck all about. For example, Pochven, right? If somebody asked me to run a campaign on Pochven, I would have no fucking idea other than they're obsessed with triangles, right? But think of me as the person who, if elected, let's say there's 11 other people who've been playing the game for 10 years, and I'm the one person who's been playing the game for 2 years. Certain basic questions they might not think to ask, be it out of naivety or ego, I might ask just out of sheer, not lack of knowledge, but wanting to be consolidated in my information. So basically, I'd say one of the big things is don't underestimate the power somebody who hasn't been playing that long can have in terms of the idea of a fresh mindset, that breath of fresh air into a room of people who may and may not be thinking the same wavelength. I mean, all the people I'm running alongside by, these great, amazing people from all around EVE have a great wealth of knowledge. Most of them way more than myself. But what veterans lack is the freshness of being new to the game. It's the idea that I'm still devoted to this game. I still want every change made to this game to be in the best interest of this game and not just myself nor my friends, you know? And I'd think if you want somebody who's going to advocate for the individual player over a block, or a individual player over an alliance, or over a corporation, I'm your guy. Because the changes I'm advocating for don't necessarily benefit a single null block or big group. They improve the game for every single player regardless of play type. So yeah.
I would say that, I mean, one thing that, you're willing to put out stuff that not all null sectors would like, because Skyhook's the reason why, they got toned down to what they are, is because Nullsec said, like, it's impossible for us to, like, protect these things. Like, there's this random chaos. And they got their wish of well-protected Skyhooks. So, changes that you're advocating for, do seem to be balanced on the idea that you're not looking to just enhance Nullsec, you're looking to enhance the game, but the game that you know best is Nullsec.
Yes. 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been really awesome, and I look forward to continuing watching your campaign, and I'm sure that you will make it on our ballot for sure. So,
well, fingers crossed. I really thank you for having me on tonight. The fact it's a year on from last year is fucking wild. And I just want to say a big shout out to Frozen here, or as he's known on Twitch, Federation Frontline Report. If you don't know, this gent here is the reason why I'm streaming. It's the reason why I'm running again. Is the reason why a lot of the stuff I've done in this game is the way I've done it, is because of the positive influence this gentleman here has had upon myself. So if there were to be a time in which Frozen runs again, he's somebody you really should put on your ballot because he has the best interest of everybody at heart. Yeah, he may be a little bit anti-Caldari, but we don't look at that. We just look at the positives, right? We don't look at the negatives. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and have a great night, everybody.
See you later, everyone.